I have been playing for the past few days Star Wars Battlefront, and I wasn't originally going to get this, but I was shopping and I saw it and I just thought, screw it. I saw it for like 40 quid, so you know, it's cheaper than some other places are selling it, so I picked it up. And I just thought I'd do a video on my impressions of the game so far, because I'm kind of split half and half on this one. And I'm going to go into as to why. So I'm playing on Supremacy in this footage, obviously as the Empire, and obviously on Endor. So this is a match I think that I managed to win. But yeah, first off I'm going to go into what I like about the game, what I think is actually really quite good about it. And there's some things which I think some other people haven't been giving the game credit for. First off, the minute-to-minute gameplay is really good fun. It's like the old Star Wars Battlefront in that, you know, you had the option to switch between third and first person. It's simplified shooting, so it's not too difficult. It's not too made for uber pros. And yeah, the map design is really good as well, so it complements the gameplay. And yeah, some of the modes themselves, I haven't played all of them, but some of the main modes are actually really good fun for the most part. Some are a little bit imbalanced, but I'll go into that later. And in terms of sound design, weapons, how they all sound, how they feel just about right. The sound design is brilliant. It is lacking in a little areas, but again, I'll mention that later. And yeah, the actual gameplay as well. The gameplay is solid. It works just as well in first or third person. In fact, I find more success in third person, surprisingly. So, well, it works out pretty well. Vehicles, some of them are really good fun. The AT-ST is fun to use. I haven't had much time yet to use the AT-AT turret, but the speeder bikes, though, however, are kind of like a bit of a dud, because it's really hard to be able to actually hit somebody on them. And they're only really useful for chasing down other speeder bikes, but it's very rare that you'll come across that situation. At least it was for me anyway. And it's far too easy to crash them, because you can just bump into a tree and then dung, a quarter of your hit points gone. So that's a bit of a nuisance, but for the most part vehicles are fine. I've been enjoying the air combat. I've been hearing bad things about the air combat, but it's just as good as the original games. However, that's kind of a bit of a bad thing for me, though. It's just as good as the original games. PS2 games, mind you, must be getting over nearly a decade ago now. And they're just on par with that. They're good, but it's pretty much just exactly the same as the old games. You fly around easily with the analog sticks, you lock onto enemies, and you launch missiles at them. It's very simple, no real major skill required. And it's kind of a disappointment for me, because I never really played much Battlefield. The most experience I've had with the Battlefield series is, you know, the Hardline beta. And from what I'd heard, flying jets and stuff took skill in those games. It's kind of a shame that they didn't take the same approach as Starfighters, because it made it feel more satisfying being like a badass starship pilot. You know, you'd feel awesome knowing how well you could pilot the Millennium Falcon. You're like, I'm just as good at Han Solo at piloting the Millennium Falcon, or I'm just as good at Luke at piloting an X-Wing, or I'm just as good as Vader at piloting a TIE fighter. But unfortunately, it's just a bit too simplified. It makes flying less of a tactical, yes, we got good pilots in the air kind of thing, and just more of a, oh yeah, there's a bit of an air battle going on. But it never really, apart from outside of the dedicated air battle mode, air battles don't really seem to they don't really tend to impact much on the ground unless you're really good at hitting stuff on the ground, which I myself am not. I'm good at shooting down other pilots, but not shooting stuff on the ground, which is a shame, because I do enjoy trying to do strafing runs on big infantry movements during matches. It's fun trying to strafe them with laser blasts, but usually I get like one or two people at most. So yeah, it's a bit of a letdown as the space combat. And like I said, there's some good modes in it. Walker Assault and Supremacy are quite fun. I prefer Supremacy to Walker Assault. Walker Assault's fun, but it does tend to go on for quite a bit. And on some maps it's far too easy for one side to win, and some other maps it's far too easy for the other side to win. Like on Endor, if you're playing as the Imperials, it's really hard getting it done, you know. But if you're playing as the Rebels on Half, it's next to impossible. I rarely win as the Rebels on Half. But on Conquest, it's a bit more balanced. You both start off with 2 capture points. There's one in the middle to capture, and you got to try and move on and capture the other ones. And yeah, that's a good fun mode. It's more balanced than the others. More balanced than Walker Assault anyway. And yeah, it makes good use of the same maps. And it's a shame that it's the exact same map it is in Walker Assault. It'd have been cool if they had their own dedicated maps, but they do work well for both modes. It's not like, say, oh, this map was made for this, but we've had this mode shoehorned into it. They do feel like they were at least balanced for that. And the thing is, though, is I only really, apart from Air Squadron, I only really play Conquest and Walker Assault. The other modes, they're a bit hit and miss. Hero Hunt, it's a cool idea, where there's one person who plays a hero. They choose their hero, and then I think it's a squad of 12 they're put against. They've got to try survive on their own against them. And then, basically, whoever has, from what I can understand how it works, whoever has the highest score as a hero wins the match, if you get what I mean. What happens is, the last person to get a shot in on the hero and kill them is the person who becomes the hero next. And so obviously, they get points and stuff as a hero. I don't know how it works out, but I've played it a bit, and that's a bit of a letdown, really, for me. I don't know, it's just, I never really got to play as a hero as much as I'd like. But heroes versus villains, that's where it's a bit more interesting, it's a bit more fun. The fact that both sides have a hero and a villain at the same time, and then everyone gets when one hero dies, the next person gets to play as a hero. That's cool. It means that everyone gets to play as a hero. It's a mode that's great for people who want to be able to play as heroes. That's a fun one. That's one they did well with. It's a bit smaller than I would have liked, but obviously for small teams it means more. Pretty much, it's guaranteed you play as a hero, so it works. And it's on smaller, dedicated maps as well. So it's not small teams on huge, spacious maps. So that works out well. Blast is just basic team deathmatch, and it's boring as fuck. Nothing special about it. It's just team deathmatch. Whoever gets the most kills wins. No fun take on it at all. And yeah, this is where it's going to get into the disappointing side of the game. There's not enough, like, at all. And I can chalk that down to one thing. But that would, if they'd kept this one thing in, the game would have felt like it had more meat on its bone. If they had this one thing in it, single player content. I'm not talking about the tutorials, I'm not talking about the missions. They're barely even single player content at all. They're not. I would not consider them single player content. They are blink and you'll miss it content. Now, I'm talking, the previous 2 Battlefront games had instant action, where you could play on any map, as choose your side, and you could shoot bots to your heart's content on battlefields. It's fun, it was addictive, and it was one of the main things that kept people coming back to the Battlefront games, because the online modes back in that time, they were very basic. People didn't care about those. They wanted to be able to play it for that kind of stuff. And also, the first one had a bit of a very simplified version of it, but where's Galactic Conquest? Seriously? It's like the staple of the Battlefront franchise was Galactic Conquest. People loved that mode. It was addictive. It was awesome, conquering planets. Especially Battlefront 2, that was the one that did Galactic Conquest right. First one, it was very basic. You had like pretty much every planet, and you had to win a match on each of the battlefields to be able to conquer it. And then you moved on to the next planet. It's very basic. Battlefront 2, however, had it where you were on a big galactic map, and you built fleets, which was basically just a ship, which is just multiple ships you could move around the galactic map, and you use them to assault planets. And you also used requisition points and stuff to research the units that were available in the game. So that way you always started off with basic infantry, but the more battles you won, the more points you earned, the more classes you could unlock. So, you know, the more diverse your army became. And the opponent would be doing the same thing as well. They'd be unlocking more enemy types as the game went on. And again, it was quite basic, but it was fun to play through. And there was, like, if I remember correctly, for each faction there was 3 different variations on you know, like how it would start. Like one of them would be really easy. One of them would, you'd start off with an advantage. One of them you'd start off just both sides equal. And one would start off where you're at a disadvantage. Like they'd start off with more planets than you, or more resources than you. So each faction had that. And here's another thing that disappoints me. Now, I know a lot of people don't like the prequels. I enjoyed them myself. I don't think they're as good as the originals, but they weren't like amazingly horrible like people say they are. But a lot of people, even people who don't like the prequels, said that they miss being able to play the Clone Wars stuff from the prequels because it added variety to the game. Whereas the Clone Wars content, some of the battlefields from the Clone Wars were awesome. Utapau, Felucia. Those battles were cool. Whereas planets like Renvar, and this is getting onto another thing of planets. There's only 4, with 2 maps each. That's not a good amount in my eyes. I'm sorry, but it's not, because the original game had, like, if I remember correctly, like at least 15 or 16 maps, well, planets, and each planet tends to have 2 maps on it. Now the second game had a similar amount of planets, but some only had 1 map on them, but then others had space battle maps, where you do space battles. And yeah, where's space battles? Air Squadron's fun, but it's literally just over the large maps in the sky. It's a bit more expanded out to allow you to maneuver out a bit more, which is nice. But it's just over the planets. Would it have been so difficult for them to do it in space? I don't think so. I'm not a game programmer, but if they could do it in Star Wars Battlefront 2, I'm pretty sure they could do it in this very easily. And another thing, I said earlier about the sound design. Everything sounds great, except the voice actors for the heroes. EA, could you not afford decent impersonators? The first thing I did when I played this game, on the very beginning when you first start installing the game, it basically lets you play as Darth Vader, and you run around a little map on half, basically killing rebels to your heart's content with an invincible squad of stormtroopers with you. And the first thing I noticed when I killed a stormtrooper, no one can stop my lightsaber. The voice acting for these guys is terrible, like really bad. Han Solo sounds okay. Luke Skywalker is passable. Darth Vader is terrible. Emperor Palpatine's quite good, actually. It sounds silly and he's not great, but he's enjoyable. He's enjoyably silly. That's what the Emperor was, you know. Boba Fett is actually the best one in my opinion. He's the one that sounds the most like Tamora Morrison, who was the guy who played Jango Fett in the Clone Troopers. He sounds the best, surprisingly, and Princess Leia just someone trying to do their best British impersonation, basically. Which is what Princess Leia was in the films, but she did it better, if you know what I mean. She was better at being kind of more British. So, yeah, there are some things that really disappoint me in this game, but I've been finding myself having a lot of fun with it still. Because, like I said earlier, the moment-to-moment gameplay is really good fun. Mechanically, it's solid, in my opinion. The weapons are great. They need more weapons, but for the most part, it's solid. The star card system works great. Allows you to customize your loadout a bit. The character customization is a bit bare bones, but it is nice that you can have female stormtroopers and female rebel characters, as well as different aliens for the rebels. That's cool. It's a shame you can't do that for the stormtroopers, but then again, the stormtroopers are meant to be human only. The Empire's a bit anti-alien, so it does make sense. So it's fitting with the Star Wars canon. But there's just some things that really annoy me. It's not got much meat on its bones. And whilst they have said that there's going to be more free DLC after the Battle of Jakku, I'm guessing it's probably going to be few and far between, because this game has in the UK, a £40 season pass. That's one of the most expensive season passes I've ever seen. And they haven't even said what's in it. So it just feels like a game where it's not complete without the season pass. And that is really, really, really depressing, because if they spent just a bit more time on this game, even just added in 2 more planets for free, had the Battle of Jakku, and maybe just have a fan favourite like Renvar, it would have been at least a bit better. So, like I said, I'm split 50-50 on this game. I really enjoy it, but I just wish there was more. And that's all I can say, really.